In both your personal and professional life, there's one skill that stands above the rest. Persuasion. Whether you're trying to get a new opportunity at work, persuade someone to support your idea, or simply ask for something from a friend or colleague, the ability to persuade is what makes things happen. But persuasion is not something you're born with, it's a skill you can develop and master over time. Imagine being able to walk into any situation, whether it's a job interview, a meeting, or a conversation with a client, and knowing exactly what to say and how to say it to get the results you want. Think about how much easier your life would be if you could persuade people to agree with your ideas, support your goals, or even just say yes when you need them to. The good news is, it's possible. In this book, you'll learn the strategies and techniques to influence others effectively and ethically. We're going to break down the key steps to building trust, making people like you, and getting your point across in a way that makes others want to listen and act. You don't need to be a master of manipulation or have any special tricks up your sleeve. What we're talking about is understanding people, speaking their language, and connecting with them in a way that feels natural. This isn't about being pushy or overbearing. It's about recognizing what motivates others, how to communicate with them in a way that resonates, and how to get the outcome you want. You'll learn how to make your requests in the right way, how to handle rejection gracefully, and how to build rapport quickly so that you can make lasting positive connections with people. As you move through this book, you'll find easy-to-follow, practical advice that you can start using right away. By the end, you'll feel more confident in your ability to persuade others, whether you're negotiating a deal, pitching an idea, or simply asking for help. These are skills you can apply in everyday situations, and with a little practice, they'll become second nature. If you're ready to learn how to persuade with ease and get the things you want from anyone, you're in the right place. Let's dive into the practical steps that will help you master the art of persuasion. Chapter 1. Why persuasion is the most important skill in life. Persuasion shapes everything around us. It's in every conversation, every deal, every decision. It's the reason some people get what they want effortlessly while others struggle to be heard. Most people don't realize how much persuasion affects their daily lives. They think success comes from working hard, being smart, or just having good luck. But the truth is, the people who move ahead in life are the ones who know how to persuade. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers and instantly making them feel drawn to you. Picture asking for something, a promotion, a discount, a favor, and hearing yes without hesitation. Think about how much easier life would be if people naturally wanted to agree with you. This isn't a fantasy. It's what happens when you understand the power of persuasion. Every day, people are persuading or being persuaded. When you apply for a job, you're persuading the employer to hire you over someone else. When you ask for help, you're persuading someone to take action. Even in small moments, choosing where to eat, deciding on weekend plans, convincing a child to do their homework, you're using persuasion. The question is, are you doing it well? The ability to persuade isn't reserved for salespeople or politicians. It's a skill anyone can learn. Some people pick it up naturally, but most have to develop it. Once you understand how it works, you'll notice a shift in the way people respond to you. They'll listen more, agree more, and trust you more. It's not about being pushy or aggressive. Real persuasion feels natural. It makes people want to say yes. People often mistake persuasion for manipulation, but they're completely different. Manipulation is about tricking people for personal gain. Persuasion is about presenting your ideas in a way that makes sense to others. It's about creating a win-win situation where both sides feel good about the outcome. The most successful people don't force others to agree with them. They guide conversations in a way that makes agreement the natural choice. Think about the people who always seem to get their way. They aren't necessarily the loudest or the most forceful. They have a way of speaking that makes others listen. They know how to connect with people on a deeper level. They make their ideas sound appealing, their requests sound reasonable, and their presence feel valuable. That's persuasion in action. Without persuasion, even the best ideas go unnoticed. Hard work alone isn't enough. You can be the most skilled person in the room, but if you can't communicate your value, you'll be overlooked. Look at the workplace. Two employees could have the same level of experience. One speaks up with confidence, knows how to frame their contributions, and persuades decision-makers to see their worth. The other keeps their head down, hoping their work will be noticed on its own. Who do you think gets the promotion? Persuasion is the difference between being forgotten and being remembered. It's what makes someone's words carry weight. It's why some people can walk into a meeting and have their ideas accepted instantly, while others struggle to get a single point across. When you know how to persuade, you don't have to fight for attention. People naturally listen. Success isn't just about talent or effort. It's about being able to influence people in the right way. The most successful individuals, leaders, entrepreneurs, top performers, are all great persuaders. They don't sit around waiting for opportunities to come to them. They create opportunities by convincing others to believe in them. They know how to present their thoughts in a way that excites, motivates, and inspires action. Even in personal relationships, persuasion plays a huge role. Think about moments where you needed to resolve a disagreement, plan something important, or make a big decision with someone else. The way you communicate in those situations matters. If you push too hard, people resist. If you hesitate, they ignore you. But when you use the right approach, people listen and engage. Relationships thrive when both sides understand each other, and persuasion is the key to making that happen. Most people struggle with persuasion because they don't know what actually works. They either try too hard and come off as demanding, or they hold back and fail to get their point across. Persuasion isn't about being forceful. It's about knowing how to present your ideas in a way that makes people feel good about agreeing with you. Some think persuasion is about talking more, but the best persuaders listen just as much as they speak. They pay attention to what others care about. They understand what motivates people, what makes them hesitate, and what makes them excited to say yes. They don't just throw words out and hope for the best. They shape conversations with intention. Once you master persuasion, life feels easier. Conversations flow smoothly. People are more open to your ideas. You stop feeling like you have to fight for attention because people naturally respect your words. It's a skill that can take you from struggling to thriving in almost every area of life. Persuasion isn't about tricking people. It's about understanding them. It's about knowing what makes people tick and using that knowledge to communicate more effectively. When done right, persuasion doesn't feel like persuasion at all. It feels like connection. It feels like trust. And when people trust you, they say yes more often. Some people spend their whole lives struggling because they don't realize how important persuasion is. They work hard but don't get recognized. They have great ideas but can't get others to listen. They know what they want, but they don't know how to ask for it in a way that gets results. It doesn't have to be that way. With the right skills, anyone can become more persuasive. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about learning how to communicate in a way that makes life easier. Imagine knowing exactly what to say in any situation. Imagine feeling confident when asking for what you want. Imagine never feeling ignored, dismissed, or unheard again. That's what persuasion can do for you. The world is full of opportunities, but only for those who know how to take them. Persuasion is the tool that allows you to do that. It puts you in control. It helps you stand out. It makes people remember you, trust you, and want to work with you. And once you develop this skill, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. Chapter 2. How to make people like you in minutes. People decide whether they like you within the first few minutes of meeting you. It's not always fair, but that's how the mind works. A first impression sets the tone for everything that follows. If you get it right, people warm up to you instantly, and conversations feel natural. If you get it wrong, it becomes an uphill battle to change their perception. The good news is that making people like you is not about luck or guessing. It's a skill, and anyone can learn it. People like those who make them feel good. If someone enjoys being around you, they'll naturally be drawn to you. The mistake most people make is thinking they have to impress others with achievements, stories, or jokes. That's not what makes people connect. The real key is how you make them feel. If a person feels important, heard, and valued in your presence, they will like you. It's that simple. The fastest way to make someone feel important is to show genuine interest in them. When you meet someone, focus on them rather than on yourself. Ask about their experiences, thoughts, and opinions. Most people love talking about themselves when given the chance. They rarely meet someone who truly listens, so when they do, it stands out. If you give someone your full attention, they will walk away feeling good about the conversation, even if you barely spoke about yourself. Eye contact plays a big role in building instant connections. When you look at someone while they're speaking, it shows that you're present and engaged. People notice when your eyes wander or when you seem distracted. Holding steady eye contact, even just for a few seconds longer than usual, creates a sense of trust, but it should feel natural. Too much, and it becomes uncomfortable. The balance is keeping your focus on them without making it feel forced. A simple way to make people like you faster is by mirroring their energy. This doesn't mean copying everything they do, but subtly matching their tone and pace. If someone is upbeat, matching that enthusiasm makes them feel understood. If they are calm and reserved, lowering your own energy slightly makes them feel comfortable. People are drawn to those who feel familiar, and mirroring creates that effect naturally. Names matter more than most realize. Remembering and using someone's name in conversation makes them feel acknowledged. People respond differently when they hear their own name. It signals recognition, which builds a personal connection. If you meet someone new, saying their name once or twice during the conversation makes a lasting impression. If you struggle with names, making a conscious effort to repeat them in your head after hearing them helps. Smiling at the right moments makes a huge difference. A warm, natural smile signals friendliness and approachability. It puts people at ease. People instinctively react to the energy you give off. If you seem open and inviting, they will feel comfortable around you. But the key is authenticity. A forced smile is obvious. A real one happens when you're relaxed and genuinely engaged in the conversation. The way you respond to people's words influences how they feel about you. When someone shares something, responding with enthusiasm or understanding makes them feel heard. If they tell a story, reacting in a way that matches their excitement or concern shows that you're engaged. People remember how you made them feel. A conversation where they feel appreciated and understood sticks with them. Small compliments can instantly shift how someone feels about you. The right kind of compliment makes people feel seen. Instead of generic praise, noticing something specific about them makes it more meaningful. It could be how they handled a situation, their sense of humor, or the way they explain things. People often go through life without hearing positive feedback, so a well-placed compliment can make a big impact. Your body language sends messages before you even speak. The way you stand, the way you move, and the way you use your hands all influence how people perceive you. Open body language, like keeping your arms relaxed rather than crossed, makes you seem more approachable. Leaning slightly in when someone is talking shows engagement. The small details matter. People pick up on them, even if they don't realize it consciously. The tone of your voice affects how people feel when talking to you. A warm, steady tone creates a sense of comfort. A rushed or monotone voice makes conversations feel distant. The way you say something is just as important as what you say. When speaking, a slight upward tone at the end of a sentence makes you sound more inviting. A downward tone signals certainty and confidence. Adjusting your tone to match the moment makes conversations feel more natural. People like those who bring positive energy into interactions. Nobody enjoys being around someone who constantly complains or focuses on the negatives. That doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect, but keeping the mood light and engaging makes people want to talk to you. If you focus on solutions rather than problems, and on interesting topics rather than frustrations, people will naturally be drawn to your energy. Shared experiences create strong bonds. Finding common ground with someone speeds up how quickly they feel connected to you. If you notice a shared interest, background, or goal, mentioning it strengthens the interaction. People feel closer to those who understand them. Even something as simple as a similar sense of humor builds a connection. A powerful way to make people feel drawn to you is to make them feel valued in the conversation. If they mention something important to them, remembering it for future conversations shows that you genuinely care. If they share a small detail about their life and you bring it up later, they feel seen. People don't forget when someone makes an effort to remember things about them. The best way to make people like you is to be someone they enjoy being around. If they feel good in your presence, they will associate that feeling with you. It's not about saying the perfect words or having the best stories. It's about creating a space where people feel important, heard, and comfortable. Once you understand what makes people feel that way, forming connections becomes effortless. Chapter 3. The words that make people say yes. People say yes for specific reasons, and understanding what makes them agree can completely change how you communicate. Some words trigger an instant positive response, while others create hesitation. The way a request is phrased can make the difference between someone eagerly agreeing or rejecting the idea before they even consider it. Knowing the right words to use in conversations, negotiations, and everyday interactions gives you a massive advantage. People are more likely to say yes when they feel like it's their decision, rather than something being forced on them. Giving someone a sense of control makes them open to agreeing. Instead of saying, "You should do this," rephrasing it as "You might find this helpful," removes resistance. It shifts the focus from telling them what to do to giving them the freedom to decide. No one likes being pressured, but everyone likes feeling like they made a smart choice on their own. The way you frame a request also matters. Instead of asking, "Can you help me?" which might make someone hesitate, saying, "I'd really appreciate your help with this," makes the person feel valued. People want to feel needed, and when you highlight their importance in a situation, they're more likely to step in. Words like appreciate, need, and because make people feel like their actions matter. Timing plays a huge role in getting people to agree. Asking for something when someone is stressed or distracted lowers your chances of a yes. But if you bring it up when they're in a good mood, they're much more likely to be receptive. Reading the moment before making a request increases the likelihood of a positive response. People are naturally more agreeable when they feel relaxed and valued. One of the simplest ways to make someone say yes is to use the word because. When you give a reason, even a simple one, people feel more inclined to agree. Instead of saying, "Can you do this?" saying, "Can you do this?" because it will help the team finish faster. Gives them a logical reason to say yes. The mind responds better to requests that come with a reason, even if it's not a major one. Small commitments lead to bigger agreements. When someone agrees to something small first, they're more likely to say yes to a bigger request later. If you need a favor, starting with a minor ask builds momentum. Once someone commits to helping, their brain naturally wants to stay consistent with that decision. People feel more comfortable saying yes when they've already said yes before. Using positive and confident language makes a request more appealing. Instead of saying, "Would you maybe consider this idea?" saying, "This idea has worked well for others, and I think it could be great for you too," creates more confidence. People respond better when they feel that what they're agreeing to is beneficial, and words that highlight benefits make it easier for them to say yes. Social proof influences people's decisions. If they know that others have said yes to something, they feel safer doing the same. Mentioning that many people have found this useful or that this method has helped others in similar situations increases the chances of agreement. People like feeling like they're making a good choice, and knowing others have made the same decision reinforces that belief. The way you describe an option affects how it's received. Instead of saying, "This is something you should try," saying, "This is something that has helped a lot of people achieve great results," makes it more appealing. Framing something as a positive opportunity rather than just a suggestion increases the likelihood that someone will want to agree. Using a person's name in a request makes it feel more personal. People naturally pay more attention when they hear their own name. Instead of saying, "Can you help me with this?" saying, "Mark, I could really use your help with this," grabs their attention more effectively. It makes the request feel directed specifically at them, which increases the chances of a positive response. A request feels more reasonable when it's broken down into simple steps. Instead of asking for something big all at once, presenting it in smaller, more manageable parts makes it easier for someone to say yes. People are less likely to feel overwhelmed when they see an action as simple rather than complicated. The words you use and the way you say them shape how people respond. Understanding what makes someone agree isn't about being manipulative. It's about communicating in a way that makes saying yes feel natural. The right words, timing and approach can make all the difference. Chapter 4. The secret to making anyone trust you. Trust is the foundation of persuasion. If people don't trust you, they won't listen, won't believe what you say, and won't be influenced by your words. It doesn't matter how confident or persuasive you sound, without trust, nothing sticks. The moment someone feels uncertain about you, they put up walls. But when trust is strong, people open up, listen, and even seek your opinion before making decisions. Building trust starts with consistency. People believe those who match their words with their actions. If you say one thing but do another, even in small ways, it plants seeds of doubt. Every time you follow through on something, you prove you are reliable. If you promise to call someone back and you do, they notice. If you say you'll take care of something and actually handle it, it strengthens their belief in you. The more consistent you are, the faster trust grows. Honesty plays a huge role in making people trust you. This doesn't mean you have to tell people everything, but it does mean being upfront and not twisting the truth to make things sound better. People have a natural sense for when something doesn't add up. If they feel like you're leaving out key details or exaggerating, they'll be cautious about believing anything else you say. Being open about both strengths and weaknesses actually makes people trust you more because it shows you have nothing to hide. Listening is one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to build trust. When people feel heard, they naturally trust the person who is paying attention to them. Most people listen just to respond. They're thinking about what they'll say next, instead of truly absorbing what the other person is saying. When you fully focus on someone, ask follow-up questions, and acknowledge their thoughts, they feel valued. That feeling of being understood makes them more willing to trust you. Body language sends messages about trustworthiness before a single word is spoken. The way you stand, how you make eye contact, and the way you use your hands all influence how people feel about you. If your posture is open, your movements are natural, and you maintain steady eye contact without staring, people see you as more trustworthy. Nervous habits, avoiding eye contact, or shifting around too much can make someone feel unsure about you, even if your words are solid. One of the fastest ways to make someone trust you is to be reliable in small things. If someone asks for a small favor and you handle it quickly, they're more likely to believe you can be trusted with bigger things. People judge character based on little actions. If you remember details about someone's life, follow through on small promises, or show up when you say you will, you become someone they can count on. Trust also grows when people see that you care about their interests, not just your own. If they feel like you're only talking to them to get something, they hold back. But if they sense that you genuinely care about their well-being, goals, or challenges, they lower their guard. The best way to show this is by offering help or advice without expecting anything in return. When you give before asking, people see you as someone who genuinely cares. Being open about your own mistakes or uncertainties makes you more relatable. People naturally trust those who don't pretend to be perfect. If you make an error, owning up to it instead of covering it up strengthens credibility. When you're transparent about areas where you're still learning or improving, it makes others more comfortable trusting you because they see you as real, rather than someone trying too hard to be flawless. Confidence in your words also affects trust. If you speak in a hesitant or unsure way, people doubt what you're saying. But when you communicate with certainty, it reassures them. Confidence doesn't mean being aggressive or forceful. It means being clear, direct, and steady in your tone. If you believe in what you're saying, others are more likely to believe it too. People trust those who show loyalty. If someone shares something personal or important with you and you keep it private, they feel safe opening up to you in the future. But if they hear that you've shared their words with others, trust disappears instantly. Protecting what people tell you strengthens relationships and makes you someone they can rely on. Empathy plays a major role in trust. If people feel like you understand them, they let their guard down. When someone shares a struggle or frustration, responding in a way that shows you truly get what they're feeling makes a big difference. Instead of brushing off their emotions or immediately offering solutions, acknowledging their feelings first helps build a stronger connection. Trust is not something you demand, it's something you earn. It builds over time through small actions, honesty, and consistency. When people trust you, persuasion becomes effortless because they already believe in what you say. Earning that trust takes effort, but once it's there, it changes the way people respond to you. Chapter 5. How to read people like a book. People reveal more about themselves than they realize. Every movement, facial expression and change in tone gives clues about what they're thinking and feeling. The ability to read people is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. It helps in conversations, negotiations, and even everyday interactions. When you understand what someone is really saying, beyond just their words, you can connect with them on a deeper level and influence their decisions more effectively. The first thing to pay attention to is facial expressions. The face is where emotions show up first. A quick raise of the eyebrows, a slight smirk, or a tightening of the jaw can reveal what someone is really feeling, even if they say something different. If someone smiles but their eyes don't match, it's often a sign that the smile isn't genuine. If their lips tighten after you say something, it might mean they're holding back an opinion or disagreeing internally. Noticing these details helps you respond in a way that keeps the conversation flowing in your favor. Eye movement also tells a story. When someone looks away for a second before answering, they're likely thinking about their response. If their eyes dart around while talking, they might be nervous or unsure. Steady, direct eye contact usually signals confidence and honesty. But if someone avoids eye contact entirely, it could mean they're uncomfortable, hiding something, or feeling intimidated. Recognizing these signals allows you to adjust your approach to make the person feel more at ease. Tone of voice changes based on emotions. If someone's voice suddenly becomes higher, or they start speaking faster, it might mean they're excited, anxious, or trying to convince you of something. A lower, slower tone often signals seriousness or deep thought. If their voice wavers slightly, there could be hesitation or uncertainty. Listening carefully to not just what someone says, but how they say it, gives you an extra layer of insight into their mindset. Body language reveals what words don't. When someone crosses their arms, it can be a sign of discomfort or defensiveness, especially if they do it after hearing something they don't like. Leaning in shows interest, while leaning away often signals disengagement. If their feet point toward you, they're likely interested in the conversation, but if they start turning away, their mind is already somewhere else. People don't always say when they're losing interest, but their body usually does. Micro-expressions are split-second facial expressions that reveal true emotions before someone has time to hide them. A flicker of frustration, a quick flash of surprise, or a moment of sadness can appear and disappear in less than a second. These signals happen naturally before the brain can control them, making them some of the most honest indicators of how someone really feels. Training yourself to catch these brief moments helps you understand people better than they understand themselves. The way someone gestures while talking can also give away their emotions. Open hand movements suggest honesty and openness, while clenched fists or tightly gripped objects often signal stress or frustration. If someone rubs their neck or touches their face frequently, it can be a sign of discomfort or nervousness. When people play with their hair or adjust their clothing, they might be feeling self-conscious or uncertain. These small actions happen automatically and can give you an advantage in understanding what's really going on in someone's mind. Matching a person's energy and mannerisms can create an instant sense of connection. If they speak slowly, slowing down your own speech makes them feel more comfortable. If they're enthusiastic, responding with similar energy builds rapport. People feel most at ease with those who mirror their communication style. It's not about copying them exactly, but about subtly aligning with their way of speaking and moving to create a natural sense of connection. Spotting nervous habits can be useful in many situations. If someone keeps tapping their fingers, shifting in their seat, or glancing at the door, they might be eager to leave or feeling uneasy. If their breathing changes, becoming shallower or faster, it could be a sign of stress. When people are truly relaxed, their body movements are smoother and slower. Noticing these details allows you to adjust how you approach them, making them feel more comfortable and willing to engage. Understanding people's true emotions makes it easier to navigate conversations. When you can tell if someone is genuinely interested, hesitant, or uncomfortable, you can guide interactions in a way that benefits both sides. Reading people is not just about spotting deception, it's about understanding their needs, fears, and unspoken thoughts. When you develop this skill, communication becomes smoother, persuasion becomes stronger, and relationships become more meaningful. Chapter 6. The right way to ask for anything. Asking for something can be tricky. If you don't ask the right way, you might not get what you want. It's not just about making a request, it's about framing it in a way that makes the other person want to say yes. There's a subtle art to asking, one that when done right makes the other person feel comfortable, valued, and eager to help. The first thing to keep in mind is that how you ask is often more important than what you ask for. If you come across as demanding or pushy, people are going to shut down. But if you ask in a way that makes them feel respected, they're more likely to agree. The key is to make your request sound reasonable, simple, and beneficial to both of you. Timing plays a huge role in how your request is received. If you ask for something when someone is already stressed or distracted, they're more likely to say no. But if you wait for a moment when they're relaxed and in a good mood, your chances of getting a yes increase significantly. Pay attention to the mood and energy of the person you're asking. You want to ask at the right moment when they're in a positive frame of mind. One of the most effective ways to ask for something is to make the person feel like they're the ones making the decision. People are more likely to say yes when they feel they have control over the situation. Instead of saying, "Can you do this for me?" try saying, "Would you be open to helping with this? Or do you think this is something you could help with?" This way, you're giving them the freedom to choose, which makes them feel empowered. When people feel like they've made the decision themselves, they're more likely to agree. Another powerful way to ask is by making the request feel personal. People are more likely to help when they feel like they're doing something for someone they care about. If you frame your request in a way that appeals to the other person's sense of kindness or desire to help, they're more likely to say yes. Instead of just asking for a favor, try saying something like, "I really need your expertise on this," or "I'd really appreciate your input on this. It would mean a lot to me." By making the request feel more personal, you tap into their desire to be helpful and supportive. It's also important to be clear and direct about what you need. The more specific you are in your request, the easier it is for someone to say yes. Vague requests leave too much room for uncertainty, and people are more likely to say no if they don't fully understand what's being asked. Instead of saying, "Can you help with this project?" try saying, "Can you help me with this specific part of the project? I need your advice on how to approach this task." The more details you provide, the clearer the request becomes, and the easier it is for the other person to understand exactly how they can assist. When asking, it helps to give reasons. People like to know why they're being asked to do something. The more you can explain the reason behind your request, the more likely it is that people will agree. Instead of simply asking, "Can you do this?" say, "Can you do this because it will help us meet the deadline?" Or, "Can you do this because I really value your expertise in this area?" When people understand the reasons behind the request, they're more likely to feel that it's worthwhile. Using positive language is another essential part of asking. The way you phrase your request can make a huge difference in how it's received. Instead of saying, "Can you please do this?" which sounds like a chore, try saying, "I'd really appreciate your help with this," which makes the request feel more like an opportunity to contribute. People are more likely to say yes when they feel like they're being asked to do something positive or valuable, rather than something that's just a burden. A simple but effective strategy is the foot in the door technique. This involves making a small request first, which is easy for the person to agree to, and then following up with a larger request later. The idea is that once someone has agreed to a smaller request, they're more likely to agree to a bigger one because they've already committed. For example, if you need a person to help with a big task, start by asking if they can spare a few minutes to help with a small part of it. Once they've said yes to that, you can move on to the bigger request. Another technique is the door-in-the-face strategy. This is when you make a larger request first, expecting that the person will say no, and then follow it up with a smaller, more reasonable request. The idea is that when the person refuses the first request, the smaller request will seem much more reasonable in comparison, making them more likely to say yes. For example, if you need someone to help you for an hour, you could start by asking if they can help you for 2 hours. When they say no, you can ask if they can help for just 1 hour. The second request will seem more manageable, and they're more likely to agree. It's also important to express gratitude. People are more likely to help when they feel appreciated. If you've asked for something, be sure to thank the person before they even agree. This shows that you respect them and value their time and effort. By expressing gratitude up front, you make the person feel good about helping, which increases the chances of them saying yes. When asking for something, try to make it easy for the other person to say yes. If you can make the process as simple and straightforward as possible, people are more likely to agree. If the request requires too much effort or is too complicated, they might decline out of convenience. If you can make it as easy as possible for them to help, they'll be more inclined to say yes. At the end of the day, the way you ask for something can make all the difference. If you're clear, respectful, and considerate in your approach, people are much more likely to say yes. It's not just about what you're asking for, it's about how you ask. Understanding the dynamics of asking can help you get what you want more often, while building stronger, more positive relationships along the way. Chapter 7. The Yes Chain Trick to Get People to Agree. When you're trying to persuade someone to agree with you, getting them to say yes early on can make all the difference. The yes chain is a simple but powerful technique that taps into the psychology of agreement. Once you get someone to say yes to something small, it's much easier to get them to agree to bigger things later. This technique works by building momentum. Just like when you start rolling a snowball, it gets bigger and bigger as it moves downhill. The key to this technique is starting with something that's easy to agree with. It's about building a series of small, easy agreements that create a positive flow of yes responses. People don't want to break the pattern once they've already agreed to something. The more someone says yes, the more likely they are to keep saying it. So the trick is to start small, with something so simple that they can't say no. Once they say yes to that, you've already got the ball rolling. For example, think about a situation where you want to convince a friend to help you with a project. You wouldn't start by asking them for hours of their time. Instead, start with something easy, like asking if they're willing to listen to your idea for a few minutes. It's a small commitment, one that's hard to refuse. Once they've said yes, you can move on to the next small request, maybe asking if they can give you feedback. Each little step builds the momentum, and with each yes they become more likely to agree to a bigger request later on. This technique works not just in personal relationships, but in business and professional settings too. When you're negotiating, getting your counterpart to say yes to smaller terms before the big ask is a smart way to move the conversation in your favor. If you're negotiating a deal, start by asking questions you know they'll agree with. Wouldn't you agree that this issue is important? Once they say yes to that, they're more likely to say yes to your bigger proposal. The power of the yes chain is that it plays into something called consistency. People like to appear consistent in their decisions. When they've said yes to a few small things, they feel more inclined to continue agreeing, as it makes them feel like they're being consistent with their actions. We're all wired this way. Think about it. If you've agreed to something small, you'll be more likely to agree to something bigger, because you don't want to appear like you're contradicting yourself. The yes chain also works because it helps to create a feeling of momentum. When you've said yes to one thing, it feels like you're already on a roll. That momentum carries you forward, making it easier to say yes to the next request. It's kind of like when you're working on a project. If you get a little bit done, you start to feel like you're making progress, which motivates you to keep going. In the same way, when someone says yes to your first request, they're likely to keep agreeing because they feel they're already committed. Another important part of this technique is that it taps into the human desire for positive reinforcement. When someone says yes, it feels good. It feels like a small victory, even if it's just agreeing to something minor. This creates a positive feedback loop. The more yeses they say, the more good feelings they experience, and the more they're likely to keep saying yes. It becomes a cycle of positive reinforcement, and it works wonders when you're trying to persuade someone. You can also use the yes chain in more subtle ways. It's not just about asking for something directly. It's about guiding the person toward agreement by making statements they can't help but agree with. For example, if you're trying to get someone to support an idea, start by making a series of statements they'll agree with. We both know that time is valuable. It's important to make the most of opportunities, and having a good plan makes everything easier. Each of these statements is easy to agree with, so when you finally ask them to support your idea, they're already on the path to saying yes. It's important to remember that the yes chain doesn't work if you start with something too big or difficult to agree with. If your first request is too much, the chain will break. You need to start small, and you need to pace the requests. Don't try to rush through the chain and ask for too much too soon. Take your time and let each yes build the momentum for the next one. The more you use this technique, the more natural it becomes, and the more effective it will be in getting others to say yes to what you want. One great thing about the yes chain is that it's completely natural. It doesn't rely on manipulation or trickery. It's simply about guiding someone through a series of positive, easy-to-agree-with steps that lead to a larger agreement. People want to be consistent in their decisions, and they want to feel good about saying yes. The yes chain taps into both of these desires and uses them to your advantage. In the end, persuasion is all about getting people to agree with you, and the best way to do that is by getting them to say yes again and again. When you start with small, easy-to-agree-with requests, you can build momentum and make it more likely that people will say yes to your bigger asks. The yes chain is a simple but powerful way to influence others, and when you use it correctly, it can help you get what you want in almost any situation. Chapter 8. The Power of Silence. Why talking less is better. When it comes to persuasion, sometimes saying less can be more. It's easy to think that the more you talk, the more convincing you'll be, but often the opposite is true. People don't always need a long explanation to agree with you. In fact, the more you talk, the more chances you give them to tune out or start questioning what you're saying. Silence, when used strategically, can be incredibly powerful. There's a lot to be said about how we fill silences in conversations. Most people feel the need to talk continuously because silence feels uncomfortable. But if you're trying to persuade someone, you can use silence to your advantage. By giving the other person space to think, you allow them to process your words more effectively. You're also allowing them to come to their own conclusions, which increases the likelihood that they'll agree with you. The trick is to not rush to fill the silence, even if it feels awkward. Think about a time when someone made an argument that really resonated with you. Maybe they didn't talk for long, but when they spoke, every word seemed to matter. This is the power of well-timed silence. It's not about being mute, it's about pacing your words, speaking clearly, and then allowing the other person time to absorb what you've said. If you've presented your point effectively, silence gives the listener a moment to reflect and decide that your perspective is worth agreeing with. A great example of the power of silence comes from negotiations. Whether you're negotiating a salary increase, a business deal, or a personal favor, pausing after you make a request can be incredibly persuasive. When you ask for something and then stop talking, it puts the pressure on the other person to fill that space. Most people feel the need to say something to ease the tension. Often they'll offer a compromise or agree to terms just to fill the silence. This is your opportunity to wait them out. In many situations, silence makes the other person feel like they're in control of the conversation. When you stop talking, they may feel compelled to respond, and that response often works in your favor. Think about a time when you were asked a question, and there was a moment of silence afterward. You might have felt like you needed to fill that space with an answer or suggestion. That is the exact effect you can have when you embrace silence in conversations that require persuasion. In situations where you're trying to persuade someone, silence helps avoid over-explaining or over-promising. It prevents you from saying too much, which can end up undermining your position. People often feel the need to explain themselves excessively, thinking that more details will make them seem more credible. However, too many details can lead to confusion or make the listener question your main message. Keeping things short and simple gives more weight to what you're saying and makes it easier for the other person to agree with you. Silence also gives you a chance to observe. When you stop talking, you have the opportunity to really pay attention to the other person's body language, facial expressions, and tone. These non-verbal cues are incredibly important in understanding how the person feels about what you've just said. If they seem unsure or uncomfortable, you have the chance to adjust your approach. On the other hand, if they appear receptive or thoughtful, you'll know that they're processing your message and you've made an impact. Another thing to keep in mind is how much we tend to rush our points when we're nervous or eager for approval. The fear of silence can make us talk faster, even when it's not necessary. But the more you allow pauses in your conversation, the more you demonstrate confidence. People are drawn to calm, composed individuals. When you speak less and allow for pauses, you come across as more in control, and that can increase your persuasive power. It's the quiet confidence that often gets people to listen and, more importantly, agree with you. Silence also allows the other person to save face. In a conversation, especially one where you're trying to persuade someone, the goal isn't to trap or pressure them. You want them to feel good about saying yes. Silence gives them the opportunity to think things through without feeling rushed or coerced. It's the difference between someone agreeing to help you because they feel pressured and someone agreeing because they've had the time and space to make a decision they're comfortable with. When you're in a conversation, especially one where you're asking for something, don't be afraid of the silence. Instead of filling it with more words, let your words hang in the air and give the person a chance to respond. This doesn't mean you should be silent all the time. It's about finding the right moments to pause and let the other person take the conversation forward. If you find yourself in a conversation and the silence starts to feel uncomfortable, focus on staying calm and composed. Think of it as a tool rather than something to avoid. It's not just a lack of talking, it's a purposeful choice to give your words more power. It's the moment you've set your case, and now you're allowing the other person to reflect and come to the decision themselves. One of the most effective uses of silence is when you're listening. The more you listen, the more control you have over the conversation. People love to feel heard, and by being silent and actively listening to what the other person is saying, you allow them to express their thoughts fully. This also makes it easier to respond with something that resonates with them. By listening closely, you can tailor your message to their needs or desires, which is a much more effective way to persuade them. Silence gives you the opportunity to stay calm and centered in conversations. When you're calm, you think more clearly. You can take a breath, compose your thoughts, and then decide how to proceed. Silence helps you slow down, and slowing down makes your words more deliberate and impactful. Using silence strategically is about understanding its power. It's not about avoiding conversation or leaving things unsaid. It's about creating space for the other person to process and reflect on your message. When used in the right way, silence can be just as persuasive, if not more persuasive, than words themselves. Chapter 9. The best way to handle rejection and still win. Rejection is something we all fear. It's uncomfortable, sometimes painful, and often discouraging. But here's the truth. Rejection is not the end of the road. In fact, if you handle it the right way, rejection can become a stepping stone to success. What matters most isn't whether or not you face rejection, it's how you respond to it. When you can handle rejection with grace and resilience, you build mental toughness and the ability to bounce back stronger. One of the key things to remember is that rejection is rarely personal. It might feel like a blow to your ego, but in most cases, it's not about you. The person rejecting you is making a decision based on their own circumstances, needs or priorities, not necessarily because of anything wrong with you. Understanding this can help take some of the sting out of the experience. If you internalize rejection and make it about your worth as a person, you'll find yourself stuck in a cycle of self-doubt. But if you view rejection as just part of the process, you can let go of the emotional weight it brings. The first step to handling rejection is to stop taking it personally. It's easy to assume that when someone says no, they're rejecting you as a person. But in most cases, they're simply rejecting the offer, the timing, or the terms you presented. They may not be saying no to you, they might just be saying no to a particular situation. The sooner you realize this, the easier it becomes to let go of the sting and move forward. It's also important to keep in mind that no matter how well you present your ideas or how hard you try, there will always be people who say no. That's just part of life. Next, it's important to maintain a sense of perspective. Just because you've faced rejection once doesn't mean you won't succeed next time. Think about all the successful people you admire. Most of them have faced rejection in some form. Walt Disney was rejected hundreds of times before he built his empire. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. J.K. Rowling faced rejection from numerous publishers before Harry Potter was picked up. The list goes on and on. The key to their success wasn't that they avoided rejection, it was that they didn't let it stop them. Rejection didn't define their journey. They kept moving forward despite it. One effective way to deal with rejection is to reframe it as feedback. Rather than viewing rejection as a failure, think of it as an opportunity to learn. When you're rejected, try to understand why it happened. Ask yourself, what could you have done differently? Was there something in your approach that didn't resonate with the person you were speaking to? Is there something you can improve in the way you present yourself or your ideas? Rejection often gives us valuable insights that we can use to improve. Instead of wallowing in disappointment, take a moment to reflect on what you can learn from the experience and use it to better your next attempt. Another important strategy is to build resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back after facing setbacks. It's about staying focused on your long-term goals, even when things don't go your way in the short term. Building resilience takes practice, but it's possible for anyone to develop. One way to build resilience is by celebrating small wins along the way. Every time you succeed, whether it's getting a small win or simply learning from a rejection, acknowledge your progress. These small victories keep you motivated and remind you that rejection is just one moment in a bigger journey. You also have to remember that rejection isn't always the end of the road. Sometimes it's just a redirection. Perhaps the person who rejected your idea wasn't the right person to work with, or maybe your timing wasn't right. But that doesn't mean that your idea or your efforts are worthless. It just means that you need to find another path, or another person who's more aligned with your goals. It's about seeing rejection as an opportunity for growth and exploration. Every time you face a no, you're one step closer to finding the right yes. Rejection can also serve as a reminder that you're pushing boundaries. If you're not facing rejection, you're probably not challenging yourself enough. Growth happens when you step outside of your comfort zone and take risks, and with risks come the possibility of failure and rejection. But that's okay. In fact, it's essential. Every rejection you face means you're putting yourself out there, trying new things, and moving closer to your goals. When you're rejected, take a deep breath and give yourself permission to feel disappointed. It's normal to feel frustrated, upset, or even defeated. But don't let those feelings linger for too long. It's important to process your emotions and then let them go. Don't allow rejection to consume you. Instead, use it as motivation to keep going. Remind yourself why you started in the first place and keep your eyes on the bigger picture. Every no brings you one step closer to a yes. It's crucial to surround yourself with people who support and encourage you. A strong support system can help you stay motivated after facing rejection. Whether it's family, friends, or colleagues, having people in your corner who believe in you can make all the difference. When you face a setback, turn to your support system for encouragement. They can offer a fresh perspective, remind you of your strengths, and help you stay focused on your goals. Rejection will always be a part of life, but how you handle it determines whether it will hold you back or propel you forward. By not taking rejection personally, reframing it as feedback, building resilience, and maintaining a positive perspective, you can turn rejection into a tool for success. Keep in mind that rejection is simply a part of the process, and it's something everyone faces. The key is to keep going. Keep pushing forward, keep learning, and keep believing in yourself. Every rejection brings you closer to your breakthrough. Chapter 10. The Body Language Tricks That Make You More Persuasive. Your body language speaks volumes, often even more than your words. It can either build trust or create distance, convey confidence or uncertainty. Understanding the subtle power of body language can make all the difference in how persuasive you are, whether you're making a business pitch, negotiating a deal, or simply trying to convince someone to see things your way. One of the most important things to remember is that people are constantly observing you, even when you're not speaking. How you stand, how you move, and how you express yourself non-verbally can either support or undermine your message. This means that the first impression you make often happens before you even say a word. If you walk into a room slouched over, looking down or avoiding eye contact, it sends a message of insecurity, disinterest, or lack of confidence. On the other hand, standing tall, making eye contact, and smiling can immediately communicate openness, confidence, and trustworthiness. A simple change in posture can have a huge impact. When you sit or stand with your shoulders back and your head held high, it shows that you're confident and in control. This doesn't mean you should act overly aggressive or stiff. Just being aware of your body position can make you appear more approachable and engaged. Confidence is contagious, and when you present yourself with it, others are more likely to believe in what you're saying. Another key to effective body language is mirroring. When you're trying to connect with someone and persuade them, subtly mirroring their body language can create a feeling of rapport. This doesn't mean you should mimic every movement they make, but matching their tone, pace, and physical posture can make them feel understood and comfortable. If they lean forward, you might do the same. If they cross their arms, you might mirror that in a relaxed way. By doing this, you communicate that you're in sync with them, which builds trust and increases the chances of persuading them to your point of view. Eye contact is one of the most powerful tools in body language. It shows attentiveness, honesty, and respect. People are more likely to trust you if they feel you're looking them in the eye during a conversation. However, it's important to find a balance. Too little eye contact can make you seem evasive or untrustworthy, while too much can feel confrontational or uncomfortable. The goal is to maintain steady but not constant eye contact. A few seconds at a time, with occasional breaks, is ideal. This shows that you're engaged in the conversation and actively listening, which makes the other person more likely to listen to you in return. In addition to eye contact, your facial expressions play a huge role in how your message is received. Smiling, for example, can instantly make you appear more approachable and friendly, which can lower any barriers and make the other person more open to what you're saying. A genuine smile that reaches your eyes conveys warmth and sincerity, making people more comfortable around you. On the flip side, a lack of expression or a frown can make you seem distant or unapproachable. Being aware of your facial expressions and adjusting them based on the conversation can help you establish a connection and keep the interaction positive. Another important aspect of body language is the way you use your hands. People often feel more at ease when they see that your hands are open and visible. This can make you appear more trustworthy and confident. On the other hand, crossing your arms or holding your hands tightly can send a message of defensiveness or closed-off attitude. Using your hands to emphasize points in a natural and controlled way can help reinforce your message and add energy to your delivery. When you speak with open hands, it can make you seem more genuine and persuasive, as if you have nothing to hide. Space is another factor that plays into how persuasive you are. The way you use space can influence how the other person perceives you. Standing too close to someone can make them feel uncomfortable or pressured, while standing too far away can create a sense of distance or detachment. Finding the right balance is key. In most situations, maintaining a comfortable level of personal space, neither too close nor too far, helps to create a positive environment for conversation. If you're in a professional setting, respecting personal space is crucial to establishing trust and avoiding feelings of being rushed or overwhelmed. Your posture and movement also affect how others perceive your confidence and authority. For example, When you walk into a room, your movements should be purposeful and deliberate. When you move with confidence, it makes others more likely to respect you and take you seriously. Avoiding fidgeting or pacing excessively will help you appear calm and in control. Every movement you make, from how you walk to how you gesture, can affect the way others perceive your message. Being aware of these body language cues and adjusting them based on the situation can make a huge difference in how persuasive you are. If you want someone to trust you, making eye contact, using open gestures and standing tall can signal to them that you're genuine and confident. If you're trying to establish a connection, mirroring their body language or using a warm smile can help build rapport. On the other hand, if you want to come across as an expert or someone in control, maintaining good posture, speaking with conviction, and using confident gestures will help reinforce that image. It's also worth noting that body language can be a two-way street. Just as you're using body language to influence the other person, you're also picking up on their non-verbal cues. If the person you're speaking to is avoiding eye contact, crossing their arms, or turning their body away from you, these are signs that they may not be fully engaged or that they're feeling defensive. In these cases, adjusting your own body language, perhaps by softening your posture, speaking more slowly, or using a more relaxed tone, can help break down barriers and encourage a more open conversation. When you are aware of your body language and use it consciously, you create an environment where persuasion can happen naturally. It's about more than just the words you say. It's about how you present yourself, how you engage with others, and how you make them feel in your presence. Confidence, openness, and attentiveness all shine through in the way you carry yourself, and these non-verbal cues can help reinforce your message, making it far more likely that others will be persuaded by your words. Mastering body language takes practice, but once you become more aware of it, you'll start to notice the difference it makes in your conversations and interactions. Whether you're negotiating a deal, convincing someone of your point of view, or simply trying to make a positive impression, how you carry yourself is a powerful tool that can elevate your persuasive abilities and help you achieve your goals. Chapter 11: How to make people feel important and why it works. The idea of making someone feel important might seem simple, but the impact it has on the way people respond to you is significant. When you make someone feel like they matter, like their thoughts and feelings are valued, you instantly build a connection that goes beyond just words. It's not just about giving compliments, it's about recognizing a person's worth, acknowledging their efforts, and treating them with respect. It's a game changer, not only in how others perceive you, but in how open they are to what you have to say. People are naturally drawn to those who make them feel good about themselves, and this principle holds true in every interaction, whether professional or personal. A big part of this is recognizing that every person has a desire to be seen. No one likes to feel invisible or overlooked. Whether it's in a business meeting, a social gathering, or just a casual conversation, when you show genuine interest in someone, it tells them that they are important. It's not about flattery or trying to impress them, it's about truly valuing them as individuals. When you listen intently, give them your full attention, and respond thoughtfully, you send a message that says, "You matter." Making someone feel important doesn't always have to involve grand gestures. Small acts, like remembering their name or recalling details from past conversations, can have a profound effect. People appreciate it when others remember things about them, because it shows that you care enough to pay attention. Simple gestures, like holding the door open or offering a kind word, also go a long way in making someone feel valued. These little actions can create a sense of connection, and when you show someone respect, it creates a space where they are more likely to listen to what you have to say. One of the most powerful ways to make someone feel important is through active listening. Most people want to feel heard, and when you truly listen to someone, it's a sign of respect. It's not just about hearing their words, but understanding their emotions, their motivations, and their perspectives. When you engage with someone in a way that shows you're fully present, you make them feel that what they have to say matters. This goes beyond simply nodding along while thinking about your next point. It means putting aside distractions, focusing on the speaker, and responding in ways that acknowledge their thoughts. This level of engagement helps build trust, and when trust is present, people are more likely to be open to persuasion. Another key element to making others feel important is showing appreciation. People thrive on positive reinforcement, whether it's thanking someone for their hard work, complimenting them on a job well done, or recognizing their unique talents. Showing appreciation can create a powerful bond. Compliments should be specific and genuine, as empty praise can feel insincere. When you take the time to notice and acknowledge what someone has done, it reinforces their sense of value. It's also important to be mindful of how you give compliments. Instead of just focusing on surface-level attributes, like appearance, try to compliment qualities that go deeper, like their intelligence, creativity, or dedication. People want to be recognized for who they truly are, not just for what they look like. Making people feel important also means treating them with kindness, regardless of their status. Whether you're speaking to a CEO or a janitor, the way you treat someone says a lot about who you are. No one likes to feel disrespected or dismissed, and the way you approach someone with kindness and empathy can make them feel valued. It's easy to treat someone well when they're in a position of power or influence, but showing that same level of respect to everyone you meet will set you apart. It doesn't take much to be polite and considerate, but the impact is lasting. People will remember how you made them feel, and that memory can be a powerful force in persuading them to listen to your message. When you focus on making others feel important, you also make them feel more comfortable around you. It's natural for people to gravitate toward those who show empathy and respect. This makes it easier to have open and meaningful conversations, which is key when it comes to persuasion. When people feel good about themselves in your presence, they're more likely to be receptive to your ideas. They're not focused on defending themselves or worrying about being judged. They're open to listening and considering your perspective. This makes it easier to influence their thoughts, because they trust that you have their best interests at heart. In the business world, making people feel important can help you build better relationships with clients, colleagues, and customers. When you recognize their contributions, value their input, and acknowledge their importance, you create an atmosphere of cooperation and mutual respect. This makes people more likely to work with you, support your ideas, and in the long run, help you achieve your goals. In sales, for example, if a client feels understood and appreciated, they're more likely to trust you and buy from you. It's not just about pushing a product, it's about making the client feel confident in their decision, because they know that you've taken their needs and desires seriously. In personal relationships, the same principle applies. When you make someone feel important, they're more likely to feel invested in the relationship. Whether it's a friend, partner, or family member, everyone wants to feel valued. Small acts of kindness, thoughtful gestures, and genuine interest in their well-being create a strong foundation for connection. People are more likely to reciprocate the respect and care you show them, and this creates a positive cycle where both parties feel valued. This deepens your bond, making it easier to persuade and influence each other, because there's a level of trust and emotional connection that exists. Making someone feel important isn't about manipulation or using them to get what you want. It's about fostering real connections and showing empathy. It's about giving people the space to express themselves and recognizing their worth, no matter who they are or where they come from. When people feel valued, they are more likely to be open to your ideas and perspectives because they trust that you have their best interests in mind. Whether it's in business, friendships, or family, making others feel important strengthens your relationships and creates a foundation for success. People want to work with, listen to, and support those who make them feel good about themselves, and in doing so, you become more persuasive and influential in their lives. Chapter 12. The Power of Stories. How to win people over instantly. The power of storytelling cannot be underestimated when it comes to persuading others. Stories have a unique way of engaging our emotions, capturing our attention, and helping us understand complex ideas in a simple, relatable way. Think about it. Whenever you hear a good story, it sticks with you. Whether it's a story about a struggle and triumph, or one that shares a lesson learned from a failure, stories resonate because they tap into universal experiences and emotions. It's not just about the information being shared, it's about how the story makes you feel. And this emotional connection is what makes people more likely to agree with your perspective or follow through on a request. Humans have been telling stories for thousands of years. It's how we've passed down knowledge, traditions, and values across generations. Stories are how we make sense of the world around us. They help us connect the dots between our personal experiences and those of others. When you weave a story into your conversation or presentation, you create a bridge that makes your message more accessible and engaging. Instead of just presenting facts, you're inviting people to be a part of something bigger. You're telling them that they too are a part of this narrative, whether they realize it or not. One of the key reasons why stories are so persuasive is that they allow people to see things from different perspectives. When you tell a story about someone who has overcome adversity, for example, the listener doesn't just hear about the struggle, they feel it. They can imagine what it's like to be in that person's shoes. Stories give us the opportunity to experience something without actually having to go through it ourselves. This ability to empathize with characters, situations, or ideas is what makes stories such a powerful tool in persuasion. Think about how often we turn to stories to explain things in our everyday lives. We tell stories about what happened at work, what we did over the weekend, or even how we overcame a challenge. The reason we do this is because stories make the message more relatable. When we share personal stories, we invite others to connect with us on a deeper level. They can see the real human side of who we are, and that makes them more open to what we have to say. It's not just about facts or logic, it's about building a connection. For persuasion, this means that when you want to influence someone, it's not enough to simply state your argument. You need to bring it to life with a story. Stories provide context that helps your listener understand why your idea matters and how it might benefit them. For example, if you're trying to persuade a colleague to take on a new project, you could tell them a story about how similar projects led to success in the past, highlighting the positive outcomes and the lessons learned along the way. This narrative will help them visualize the potential benefits, and it might make them more open to the idea. When telling a story, it's important to keep it relatable. People are more likely to be persuaded when they can see themselves in the story. If you're telling a story about a business deal, for instance, try to include elements that your audience can connect with, such as challenges they've faced in their own work or goals they've pursued. The more they can relate to the story, the more likely they are to see the value in your perspective. Another powerful aspect of storytelling is its ability to simplify complex ideas. Let's face it, some topics can be hard to understand, and sometimes it's difficult to explain something in a way that resonates. Stories, however, break down complex information into bite-sized, digestible pieces. Instead of overwhelming your audience with technical jargon or data, you can illustrate your point by telling a story that conveys the same message in a way that's easy to follow. For instance, if you're discussing the importance of teamwork, you could tell a story about a group of people working together to accomplish a shared goal, focusing on how each person contributed and how their combined efforts led to success. This makes the concept of teamwork feel tangible and real, and it's much more likely to stick with your audience. One of the best things about storytelling is that it doesn't require you to be a professional writer or a master of language. It's not about perfect grammar or elaborate sentences, it's about communicating in a way that feels authentic and human. You don't need to be overly polished or scripted. The best stories are often the ones that come across as natural, as if you're simply sharing an experience with a friend. People are more likely to connect with your message when they feel like you're speaking from the heart. When it comes to persuasion, timing is everything. A well-timed story can make all the difference. If you're trying to make a point during a discussion, don't just drop a story in the middle of the conversation without context. Use the story to emphasize a specific point or to illustrate a key concept. Make sure it flows naturally with the discussion and that it enhances your overall message. A story should feel like a seamless part of the conversation, not a distraction. In addition to timing, it's important to know when to keep your stories short and when to elaborate. Some stories are best told in a few sentences, while others might require a bit more detail to really pack a punch. For example, a simple story about a customer's positive experience with your product might only need a few sentences to convey the main message. But a more detailed story about overcoming a major obstacle might require a bit more depth to capture the full impact. The key is to adjust the length and detail of your story based on the message you're trying to communicate and the audience you're speaking to. The emotional aspect of stories is what makes them so persuasive. People remember how stories make them feel, and these emotions drive decisions. When you tell a story that evokes a strong emotional response, whether it's joy, empathy, inspiration, or even fear, you're more likely to leave a lasting impression. Emotion creates a connection that facts alone can't achieve. When someone feels emotionally invested in your story, they're more likely to believe in the message you're delivering. The next time you want to persuade someone, think about the story you can tell that will make them feel what you want them to feel. Maybe you want to inspire action. Tell a story that shows how someone took action and achieved success. Maybe you want to build trust. Tell a story that illustrates your credibility and reliability. Whatever the case, remember that stories are a powerful tool that can influence the way people think and act. By choosing the right story, you can create an emotional connection that makes your message more impactful and persuasive. Chapter 13. How to persuade in texts, emails, and online messages. Communication has evolved far beyond face-to-face conversations. More and more, we're using texts, emails, and online messages to connect with others, whether it's for business, networking, or personal relationships. With all the conveniences that come with digital communication, there's one major challenge. How do you persuade people effectively through text, without the benefit of body language or tone of voice? How do you make sure your words carry the right message, even if they're read on a screen instead of heard in person? When it comes to persuading others in digital communication, it's crucial to understand that your words have to work harder. You can't rely on the same cues and nonverbal signals that you would in a face-to-face interaction. In text-based communication, everything is in your words, so it's important to be clear, concise, and emotionally intelligent. It's not just about the message you're sending, but how you send it. Crafting persuasive messages in emails or texts requires a strategic approach, one that balances being direct, personable, and approachable. One of the first things to consider when persuading through digital channels is how you open the conversation. The beginning of any message is crucial because it sets the tone for what's to come. When you send an email or text, your reader is deciding within the first few lines whether or not they're going to engage with the rest of your message. If you want to persuade them, you need to grab their attention right away. The best way to do this is by making sure your opening is clear, relevant, and focused on the reader's needs. It's also important to avoid coming off as too pushy or abrupt. If your message feels like a demand or a sales pitch, the reader is likely to tune out. Instead, start with something that resonates with them, an observation, a question, or a statement that shows you understand their perspective. When you're trying to persuade someone via text or email, the next step is to get to the point quickly. People don't have time to read long, drawn-out messages, especially in today's fast-paced digital world. You need to make your main point early on and keep things as concise as possible. If you bury your key message in a sea of unnecessary details, the reader is likely to lose interest before they get to the part that matters. This doesn't mean that you should be abrupt or cold. It's about being clear and purposeful in your communication. It's also important to maintain a friendly tone in digital communication. When you're writing texts or emails, it's easy for your words to come across as flat or impersonal. Without the benefit of facial expressions or body language, your reader can misinterpret the tone of your message. That's why it's essential to infuse your writing with warmth and personality. Use a conversational tone, but be mindful of the balance. Too casual can come across as unprofessional, while being too formal can make you sound distant. Tailor your language to the person you're speaking with and adjust based on the relationship you have with them. The goal is to create an atmosphere that feels genuine and approachable. Another key aspect of persuasive digital communication is ensuring that your message is action-oriented. If you want someone to do something, whether it's responding to your email, making a purchase, or setting up a meeting, you need to make it clear what action you want them to take. One of the best ways to do this is by including a clear call to action (CTA) at the end of your message. Whether it's "let me know your thoughts" or "click here to learn more," a CTA gives your reader direction and helps them know what to do next. It also provides an opportunity to emphasize the benefit of taking action. For example, instead of simply asking someone to schedule a call, you could frame it as a way to discuss how we can save you time and money, highlighting the value that they'll receive from taking the next step. It's important to remember that when it comes to persuasion through text or email, timing matters. You don't want to bombard someone with messages all at once or follow up too frequently. Giving your reader space to absorb your message and respond is crucial. On the other hand, if you're waiting too long to follow up, your message may lose its relevance or urgency. Finding the right balance of timing is a key part of the persuasion process. The structure of your message also plays a big role in how persuasive it is. People are more likely to engage with and respond to messages that are easy to read. That means using short paragraphs, bullet points, and even headings when appropriate to break up the text. A well-structured email or text is easier to skim, and that increases the likelihood that your reader will stay engaged with your message. Avoid long-winded sentences or overly complicated wording. Simple, direct communication is often the most persuasive. Another important element of persuasive digital communication is the use of social proof. People are more likely to be persuaded by messages that show how others have benefited from taking action. This can be especially effective in emails or text messages that are part of a sales pitch or business communication. For example, you could share testimonials from clients who have had positive experiences, or reference a case study that demonstrates the success others have had with your product or service. Social proof builds credibility and trust, two of the most important factors when trying to persuade someone. When you're communicating via text or email, you also want to be mindful of how you close the conversation. The closing of your message should leave a lasting impression and make it clear that you value the other person's time. A simple positive closing statement, like "I look forward to hearing from you," or "Thank you for your time and consideration," helps to reinforce the connection and makes your reader feel appreciated. Just as with the opening, the closing of your message should reflect your overall tone, be friendly, courteous, and professional, and leave the door open for future conversation. Lastly, don't underestimate the power of personalization in persuasive digital communication. Personalization helps to show the reader that you care about their individual needs and that your message is not just a generic mass email. By tailoring your message to the specific person you're communicating with, you make it more relevant and meaningful. Personalization doesn't have to be elaborate. Even small touches like using their name, referencing a previous conversation, or acknowledging a recent achievement can make a big difference. People are more likely to respond positively when they feel like they're being treated as an individual rather than just another recipient of a generic message. The digital world has made communication faster and more efficient, but it also means that we have to be more strategic and intentional with the way we persuade others through text, emails, and messages. Crafting persuasive messages that capture attention, engage the reader, and inspire action takes thought and effort, but it's an essential skill in today's world. By mastering the art of persuasive digital communication, you can enhance your ability to influence, build relationships, and get what you want from anyone. Chapter 14: How to Negotiate and Get the Best Deal. Negotiation is a skill that everyone can use, whether you're trying to get a better deal on a purchase, persuade someone to take your side on an issue, or work out the terms of a business deal. It's not just about getting what you want, it's about creating a win-win situation for both sides. A good negotiator understands how to balance their own needs with the needs of the other person and knows how to communicate in a way that fosters collaboration and mutual benefit. When you're entering into a negotiation, it's important to remember that it's not just about making demands and trying to get the upper hand, it's about finding common ground. The first thing you should do when preparing for any negotiation is to understand both your own position and the other person's position. What do you want out of this negotiation? What are you willing to compromise on? What are the key points that you absolutely need to achieve in order for this negotiation to be successful for you? Once you've identified your own needs and goals, it's equally important to consider the other person's perspective. What do they want? What's important to them? What are they likely to be flexible on, and what are their non-negotiables? Understanding these elements will give you a better idea of where you can find common ground and where you may need to make compromises. If you can empathize with the other person's perspective, you'll have a better chance of crafting a solution that works for everyone involved. One of the most powerful tools in any negotiation is listening. Many people think that negotiations are all about talking and convincing the other side to see things your way, but the truth is that listening is just as important, if not more important than speaking. When you listen carefully, you can pick up on important details that help you understand the other person's needs, priorities, and potential areas for compromise. It also helps build rapport and trust, which are essential to creating a positive negotiating environment. People are more likely to be persuaded by someone who listens to them and takes their concerns into consideration. A key aspect of listening in a negotiation is being fully present. This means not only hearing what the other person is saying, but also paying attention to their body language, tone of voice, and other non-verbal cues. These can provide valuable information about how they're feeling, whether they're open to your suggestions, or if they're holding back. Pay attention to their facial expressions, gestures, and posture. Are they leaning in and making eye contact, or are they closed off and distant? These subtle signals can help guide your next steps in the negotiation. When you respond in a negotiation, it's important to stay calm and composed. Even if the conversation gets heated, or you feel like you're not getting what you want, it's crucial to remain level-headed. Losing your temper or getting defensive will only work against you. Instead, take a deep breath, stay focused on the facts, and communicate in a way that's both assertive and respectful. If you're able to stay calm under pressure, it will reflect well on you and help you maintain control of the negotiation. In addition to staying calm, another important strategy is to remain flexible. Negotiations are rarely straightforward, and things may not go according to plan. If you're too rigid in your approach, you could miss out on opportunities for compromise, or even completely derail the negotiation. Being open to new ideas and solutions can help move things forward, even if it means adjusting your original expectations. Flexibility doesn't mean giving up on what's important to you, it just means being willing to explore different paths to reach your goals. When negotiating, it's also essential to know when to walk away. Not every negotiation will result in a deal, and sometimes the best option is to cut your losses and move on. If the terms being offered aren't acceptable to you, or if you're not getting the value you were hoping for, don't be afraid to walk away. There's no shame in realizing that a particular deal isn't right for you. In fact, being willing to walk away can sometimes put you in a stronger position, as it shows that you're not desperate and that you value your time and resources. This can encourage the other party to be more willing to meet your terms. Another key factor in successful negotiation is the ability to frame your proposals in a way that highlights the benefits for the other person. People are more likely to agree to your proposal if they see how it aligns with their own interests and needs. This doesn't mean manipulating the truth or making promises that you can't keep. It simply means framing your ideas in a way that shows how both parties can benefit. For example, instead of just saying that you want a higher salary, you could present it as a way for the company to invest in your skills and ensure that you continue to contribute at a high level. This shift in perspective can make your proposal more appealing. It's also important to know the power of timing in a negotiation. There are moments in any negotiation where you can push for more or hold back in order to create a sense of urgency. Understanding when to make your move and when to hold off is a valuable skill. For instance, if you sense that the other party is close to making a decision, it may be the right time to make your final offer. On the other hand, if you feel like they're not yet ready to commit, you may want to give them some time and space to think things over. Being patient and strategic about timing can work to your advantage. Negotiation is also about building long-term relationships, especially in business. Even if a particular negotiation doesn't result in a deal, it's important to leave the conversation on good terms. You never know when you might have the opportunity to negotiate with that person again in the future, so it's crucial to maintain a positive rapport. Be courteous, professional, and respectful throughout the process, and you'll likely find that doors remain open for future negotiations. One of the most important things to remember in any negotiation is that it's not about winning or losing. It's about finding a solution that works for both sides. The best negotiations are those in which both parties feel that they've gained something of value. If you approach negotiation with a collaborative mindset rather than an adversarial one, you're more likely to achieve a positive outcome. By focusing on shared interests and fostering a spirit of cooperation, you can create a negotiation environment that leads to lasting success for everyone involved. Negotiation is an essential skill for anyone who wants to influence others and get what they want. It's not about manipulation or getting the upper hand. It's about understanding both your own needs and the needs of the other person, and working together to find a solution that benefits everyone. By listening carefully, staying calm and flexible, framing your proposals effectively, and knowing when to walk away, you can become a master negotiator and create win-win situations in any area of your life. Chapter 15. The Scarcity Effect. Making people want what you offer. Scarcity is a concept that has a powerful impact on how people make decisions. The idea that something is rare or in limited supply creates a sense of urgency and increases its perceived value. This principle is deeply rooted in human psychology, and it's something that can be used effectively in persuasion. Understanding how to leverage the scarcity effect can help you make your offers more compelling and increase your chances of getting what you want. One of the most straightforward ways scarcity works is by triggering a fear of missing out. People are wired to avoid loss, and when they believe that something might be gone if they don't act quickly, they're more likely to take action. Think about the last time you were offered a limited-time discount or told that a product was in short supply. Chances are, you felt a sense of urgency to make a decision, even if it wasn't something you initially planned to buy. This is scarcity at work. The scarcity effect doesn't just apply to physical goods. It can also be used in situations where people perceive that they might lose an opportunity. For example, if you're negotiating with someone and you let them know that your offer is only available for a limited time, or that there are only a few spots left, you create a sense of urgency. The other person will start to think about what they might lose by not acting quickly. This makes the opportunity seem more valuable and can push them toward a decision. The principle of scarcity also ties into the idea of exclusivity. People are often drawn to things that are not available to everyone. When something is exclusive or rare, it creates a sense of belonging to a select group. This is why luxury brands often market their products as limited editions or use phrases like "only available to a select few." When something feels exclusive, it increases its appeal and makes people more likely to take action in order to be part of that select group. If you're trying to persuade someone to buy something or agree to a proposal, highlighting the limited nature of the opportunity can make it much more attractive. But it's important to be honest and ethical about how you use scarcity. If you create false urgency or exaggerate the limited nature of an offer, you risk losing trust and credibility. Scarcity should be used in a way that is genuine and authentic. If the offer is truly limited or time-sensitive, then by all means emphasize that fact. But never try to create a false sense of scarcity, because people can usually sense when they're being manipulated. Scarcity also works by tapping into our natural desire for control. When we believe that something is in short supply, we feel a sense of urgency to secure it, as if by acting quickly, we can maintain some level of control over the situation. This sense of control is powerful, and it drives people to take action when they might otherwise hesitate. In fact, scarcity often pushes people to make decisions they might not have made otherwise, simply because they don't want to lose out on the opportunity. Another way scarcity works is by emphasizing the social proof of an offer. When people know that others are also vying for a limited opportunity, they feel even more compelled to act. This is why businesses often promote the idea that their products are selling fast or that limited quantities remain. People don't want to be left out, and the idea that others are interested in the same thing can create a sense of competition. It's not just about the product or opportunity itself, but about the desire to keep up with others and not miss out. Scarcity is also about timing. Sometimes creating a sense of scarcity is about knowing when to offer something and when to withhold it. For example, if you're trying to sell a product, offering it at a discount for a limited time creates a sense of urgency. But if you only offer it for a limited time and then take it off the market completely for a period, it increases the sense of exclusivity and rarity. The scarcity effect works even better when people know they might not be able to get the same deal again in the future. In social situations, scarcity can also be leveraged by making people feel like they are in a unique position. For example, if you're hosting an event, telling people that only a select few are invited makes the invitation seem more valuable. The fact that they've been chosen, rather than just invited along with everyone else, increases the appeal of the event and makes people feel more special for being included. It's about creating a sense of privilege and rarity around the opportunity. The concept of scarcity also applies to time. People value their time, and when something is in short supply, they feel a sense of urgency to take action before it slips away. You've probably seen this in action when someone offers you a limited time opportunity, like a discount or a chance to sign up for an exclusive service. The idea that the opportunity is temporary makes it feel more valuable, and people don't want to miss out. They feel the pressure to act before the time runs out, which is why this type of scarcity is so effective. However, it's important to strike a balance when using scarcity. If you overdo it, you can create a sense of manipulation, and people will become skeptical. Scarcity works best when it feels natural and genuine. If you're offering something that's truly in short supply or time-sensitive, make sure to communicate that clearly. But don't overstate it just to create urgency. People will quickly catch on if you do. Authenticity is key in making scarcity work for you. Another effective way to use scarcity is by limiting access to something, whether it's a product, an event, or an opportunity. For example, if you're offering a service or product that only has limited availability, you can make it more attractive by emphasizing that there are only a certain number of spots left. This creates a sense of exclusivity, and people are more likely to act quickly to secure their place before it's too late. The scarcity principle also works well when paired with social influence. If you can show that others are also vying for the limited opportunity, it can create a sense of competition that motivates people to act. For example, if you're promoting a product, mentioning how many people have already signed up or purchased, it can give others the nudge they need to take action. People want to be part of something that others are interested in, and the idea that there's a limited amount can push them to act fast. Scarcity works in many areas of life, from marketing and sales to relationships and negotiations. Whether you're trying to get someone to agree to your proposal, make a purchase, or commit to a decision, the scarcity effect can be a powerful tool to increase the perceived value of what you're offering. But as with any tool, it's important to use it thoughtfully and ethically. When used in an authentic and transparent way, scarcity can help create urgency, drive action, and increase your influence.